Hey, did you know that there are new controls in Canvas apps? Hi, I'm Bruno and welcome to the Power Minutes. Today we are checking a couple of new controls that made their way into Canvas apps, the grid container and the card. So let's check them out immediately. If you want to try them yourself, you're going to need to make sure your app is running on the authoring version 3.26012.6 or higher, and that you've got modern controls and themes enabled. So, if you're curious how you can do that, head over to Settings. Under Updates, you can see Modern Controls and Themes. We have them turned on. And under Support, you see the authoring version is higher than we described. If you need to update it, click under Edit, select the right authoring version, and press Reload and Apply, and you're good to go after relaunch. Now, on to the first topic of today. The new controller available that we're going to speak of is a new container, the grid container. You can search them like any other control, and you can see here, grid container under preview, and we've got an example already set up. This new container helps, as the name implied, to place controls in a grid-like fashion. Before it, we had to mix and match either vertical and horizontal containers, or to tinker about controls and ensuring each control was being placed relatively to another. And yeah, that took some time. It made apps great when we did it, but it was really a bit more effort than we'd like. Now, a single control can help you to do it in seconds. So we set up this grid here. And the main attributes we manage in the grid are the gap. As you can see, it is the space we give between each item internally on the control. And naturally, we have rows and columns that will help you design the pattern. We have defined 4 rows and columns, and you can see that, well, by default, it will come with some static values. And in many implementations, we can foresee that you might leave it as hard-coded, like that 4x4 or a 3x2 grid. But if you want to get technical, you can add some code to it. So in our rows, for example, we wanted to prepare it to be dynamic depending on the screen size. Well, it's still possible, and this allows you to keep it simple or ensure that some dynamic values are added. So you don't lose anything by using the grid control. If anything, you gain more control. Now, moving on, you can see that over here, you're still able to continue placing other controls. We put another grid control in there, which has a different display. So it's probably great for having those buttons over there when you want it nested in a corner. You have 4 buttons over here. And the other thing is that each control inside this container can be configured with specific attributes and requirements. So you can make sure that each control can have more or less room within the grid. Our grid controls, you can see over here that we put it to start on column 2, the second bit, and end on column 4. So just before column 4 is not inclusive, making it take 2 columns. Our gallery over here, we made sure that it starts at column 1 and it ends at column 5. Now, why column 5? For example, we only have 4 columns, but we have to overshoot by 1 to ensure that it includes it. So we can hardcode a 5 on our 4 column, but we can be a bit more dynamic and say, hey, look at my parent grid control column or rows and add a +1. Now you can have more columns, and the requirement here on this gallery is that it will continue and take that added room. And that's it for grid containers in a nutshell. Now onto our second topic. The new card control is here. And we've got it here on our top left. If your keen eye already made you look at it, that's how it is displayed when you first add it. But I want to move to another example. So let's go to our card screen over here. And you see that the new card comes with a few settings that makes creating repeating controls, so your galleries, for example, much easier. You can see that, well, you can ask what's the benefit. Well, it's already built. You only need to configure it. You can see here you can quickly toggle between vertical and horizontal directions. The title and subtitle is all within one control. The description, you can see that I didn't use it, so if it's not used, it's hidden. And of course, a few toggles here and there to make sure that you get everything in a few seconds. Additionally, this is a single control. This might not sound important, but for larger and more complex apps, it absolutely is. In short, less controls equals better performance. Compared to the classical method over here, where we have a gallery with a title, a subtitle, and a picture and a separator, that's a lot of little things that usually don't matter, but if your app is getting more and more complex, that will have some weight on it. So, in short, you're going to need to spend less time preparing a card control, which behaves absolutely similar to any other control. So if you go over here, you can see that ever so slightly faster, but there's no difference in application. You're still using the same gallery, just displaying data slightly different. So overall, less time is needed to prepare the card control in your repeating section, or if you want to have some sort of fancy button, you can also use it as a fancy button, and it behaves better than the alternative, which is multiple controls to build up a repeating side. The only downside I can see here is that it might hinder some creativity, but honestly, in those instances, you can still revert to the old remaining controls and use them like you used to. Now, you got a few new tools to make sure your apps are even better. See you next time.